My name's Mark Dixon. I'm a line pilot and training check pilot with Royal Flying Doctor Service Central Operations in Alice Springs. I've been doing this now for 8 years. Right, so a typical day for me is to be ready at the commencement of my shift. I'll expect a text message from the company telling me what aircraft I'm going to fly, what nurse I have with me, and a patient and their weights. I'll give them a call while I'm on my way to work and they'll give me further information. I need the weights of the passengers so I can calculate the weight of the plane before we depart. I'll check the weather, I'll check the maintenance schedule on the aircraft, and then I'll check the aircraft itself to make sure that it's fit to fly. With all of that information then, we will attempt to close the doors on time, which needs to be 45 minutes after the time we're called. So some of our flights have a doctor with them, some of them don't. It's not common for us to carry a doctor, it's usually what we call a nurse-only flight. Once the doors are closed, I'll get in contact with the Alice Springs Tower in this case, or if I was in Adelaide, it'd be the Adelaide Tower. They'll give us what they call an airways clearance, which lets us taxi around the airport and get ready to take off. We'll line up on the runway, and once we'll get going, it's usually fairly busy for me and my nurse gets to relax. So I'm busy making sure I'm following the instructions I've given and the aircraft's working properly and doing what it's meant to do. It's not unlike driving a car, except we do it in 3 dimensions instead of 2. We usually have around about 20 minutes depending on the job we get. We've got a really big area that we cover. So from Alice Springs, we go as far north as Elliot, we go as far west as Warrakoona, right out to Western Australia, and right over to a place called Alparulam, which is right near the Queensland border. And of course we also go right down south to Adelaide on a regular basis too. So the time I have free once we've taken off can vary depending on the length of the flight. On average, we spend a lot of time out to the west, around the western communities of Alice Springs, around about 45 minutes to an hour. So I'll have around about 15 minutes to enjoy the view, and then we'll start our descent. My nurse is usually getting ready in the back then. The approach is all outside of controlled airspace, so we have no radar control. It's all what we call see and avoid. We use the radio and you open your eyes, find the airstrip, make sure that it's clear, no camels and donkeys, any sorts of animals. We get a lot of those out here. And come in for a landing. I'll park the plane, and that's when my nurse usually springs into action then. We'll open the aircraft up, we'll expect to see the clinic people arrive, and they'll usually have a patient in an ambulance in either walking, because that's the nature of their illness, or it could be a really serious matter where we've got a motor vehicle accident where we'll unpack the aircraft and pack it all into the back of the ambulance or troop carrier. They're not like the regular ambulances you see around the city. They're all 4-wheel drive and fairly dirty and robust. We'll pack them, then we'll sometimes go to the scene of the accident, but often we'll end up at the clinic which is nearby the accident, where we'll attempt to get the patient stabilised and comfortable, and that can be anything from splints to spinal mattresses, depending on their injuries. A black hole landing is what we face quite commonly when we go out to communities. There's no ambient light, so there's no light from the communities, there's no moonlight. So what you see is just some very faint lights on the ground where the runway is. As you approach it, you can't actually get any depth perception. You can't see the ground, you can only see the lights. So that's what we call a black hole approach. So some of the differences that I have being an Rfds pilot compared to a normal commercial pilot, when we land at these communities, often we'll participate in the job at hand. So I could be doing anything from preparing splints, I can be getting out drugs. I don't actually draw the drugs up for the nurse because that's their job, but making the preparations for that. I can be hooking up monitors and leads and generally making preparations in the aircraft and passing pieces of equipment to the doctor or the nurse, taking notes and generally making their life as easy as possible. So it's you can't just fly the plane, you do have to participate with the patient care, and that also includes the loading and unloading of them, and often even just being reassuring to them that things are going to be okay. They can be often very scared of the flight, and that usually is compounded by whatever their situation is. I wanted to fly ever since I was a kid, and I had great dreams of joining the Air Force and becoming a Battle of Britain pilot. Obviously that era's passed. But I just love aeroplanes. It's a feeling and a passion that I've had for them. I always had model aeroplanes as a kid. I made paper aeroplanes, got into trouble at school playing with paper aeroplanes. So it was a natural thing for me to want to fly. I actually ended up doing a trade first before I became a pilot, but the passion was always there, so I made the effort to get my licence. So for me, it's been the realisation of a dream. So someone once said to me, if you're doing something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And that's how I feel doing this sort of work. So we have a lot of tough days, and that can range from very bad weather and severe turbulence and dust as far as the flying's concerned, but it can also be according to the job we've done. As you can imagine, motor vehicle accidents aren't pleasant to attend, and we see a lot of things that most people don't get to see and happily don't. But the rewards from doing that, knowing that you've made such an impact on someone's life and that you've achieved something, that you've put all of your skills to the test and you've come out being able to get the aircraft in and out safely of where you had to be and ultimately impacted not just the patient's life but their families as well. They know a lot of people now have us to thank for what we've done, and their families are really appreciative of it. So you'll get a letter just come through once every 3 or 4 months. One of the crews will get a letter from someone who's really appreciated what they've done, and that letter can make all of the difference. It can really lift your spirits and help you approach the next time. I think the kind of person that we're looking for, they have to be self-reliant. You have to have a good skill set and you have to be competent in what you're doing. But you also would probably be the kind of person who likes to be their own manager. Once we step out of the hangar and close the door on the aircraft, I'm in charge of the aircraft and everybody on board, so I'm responsible for that. So it's nice to know that people have given me the trust, but also that I have the skill set to deliver. You get given a large amount of responsibility, and no one really knows that you've done it right or wrong until the plane comes back in one piece and everyone's okay. I think if anyone wanted to learn to fly, the sooner you do it, the better. You can start to learn to fly at 15 years old. The faster you can achieve your qualifications, the sooner you can build the experience. Unfortunately, you can't just get a licence and step into an Rfds aircraft or a Qantas jet, but the sooner you have those qualifications, the sooner you can start building those hours and make those opportunities happen for you. And it's one of these sorts of environments where age really isn't a barrier. You can, the sooner you start, the sooner you're away, enjoying what you want to do.